Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro, and more importantly, Ideanthro episode 100. Now, time's gone quickly. I'm really surprised how quickly this last year has gone, and just how quickly we've got to this point. I was wondering for a while what to do about episode 100. It kind of seems like I should be doing something special. Maybe there should have been some balloons. Not sure, but the other night, this idea hit me, and it felt really good, really right. So this is episode 100. I want to talk about a few people. Now, so I've been really fortunate, right, in my career that I have had, I suppose, 4 people that I'd probably say were my bosses. At least one of those will find that a really uncomfortable term. 4 people who I've found, I've had as a boss over my career. And I've been really fortunate that all 4 of them have been really good. And I was sitting down and thinking about, like, what was it about them as good bosses that I really liked and allowed me to thrive? And of course, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. They all have particular things that they did, but all 4 of them have one common feature. And so I want to talk about, obviously, who these 4 people are and what that common feature was, because I think we can learn from that and reflect on that. So that's the purpose, is to learn and reflect on that. But of course, this is also a bit of a thank you episode, and this is why this comes as episode 100, because it's a little bit momentous, a little bit of a, hey, thank you to these 4 people. So who are they? First up, my first boss in the industry was DJ Mackenzie. So at Logan City Council at the time, DJ was the person who took me on as a student to find all of Logan's water-sensitive urban design assets, figure out what condition they were in, and DJ is the person who ultimately kind of sent me on this little path. Number 2 was Dione Allen. So at the time, Dione was a program leader in the flooding team at Logan. So I spent a while in DJ's team, moved over into Dione's team. Third up was Claire Bennett. Now Claire actually works for ACOM, but when when I went to Europe for a month and Dione resigned during that time and left 3 days after I got back from Europe, Claire came in as a contractor for a period of 2 or 3 months as my boss at Logan. By the way, I don't hold anything against Dione for the fact that you left while I went on holidays. This is just how timing plays out. I get that. Claire came in for a short period of time and really helped me during that period. And then 4th was Andrew O'Neill, Healthy Waterways. Andrew was my boss. Andrew would feel real uncomfortable about that term. Andrew was my boss for about 4 years at Healthy Waterways. So the common feature that I noticed when I sat down and went, all 4 of these people were really, really good to me. The common feature that I noticed was there were 3 kind of interrelated things that they all did for me that I think allowed me to thrive. So the first one was this: they all allowed me to take on projects that were really ambitious. So really stretching myself big time. The first one in particular, I'll use as an example, Blackwell Street stormwater treatment system. So it's got some wetlands, it's got some bioretention, it's got a flood basin component in it, was a project at Logan City Council that had been kicking around for a while through the planning stage, which has gone through a bunch of iterations over nearly 10 years, at the point that I received it as a project and needed to get a detailed design done. And note at this point that at the point it was handed to me, I'd literally graduated from uni like the week before or something to that effect. And I got given this project that really, really stretched me. And when I've talked to a few other young people who have felt that they really grew in their first and their formative years in the industry, a few of them tell this story of being given a really, really the sort of project that you wouldn't think you should give to a really new graduate. And yet, because of the environment that they were in, that element of being stretched, they feel that it made them. So that was number 1, being stretched. Number 2 here was that the thing about these stretched projects is that you're almost certainly going to make mistakes at some point, right? And all 4 of these people, so by the way, this Blackwell Street project for me transitioned from, I was working for DJ when I first picked it up, then I carried it across to working for Dione, and obviously kept working on it when I was working with Claire as my boss. And so Blackwell Street you know, it's a big project with a big legacy. Evidently everything's not going to go smoothly. But in all four cases, including Andrew with other projects, I had this stretch project, but the second piece here was that when I made mistakes, I was allowed to experience those. Because if you're going to learn from this real stretch project, you also need to know the consequences when things don't go quite right, because they're the trigger for you to go, oops, I should do that a little differently next time. If you don't ever experience the consequences, you're not going to learn. You're just going to repeat whatever you did last time, which presumably, if something went wrong, was a mistake. That's number two. But number three I think is really important with respect to number two, was I knew that ultimately all four of them had my back. So yes, in number two, I was going to experience when things went wrong, but none of them were going to hang me out to dry for it. They were ultimately going to take the heat off it. So I experienced just enough of the, oops, things didn't quite go right there to learn, but not so much to smack me over the head and make me not want to continue to push myself. And it's a really neat little balance there that each one of DJ, Dione, Claire, and Andrew did for me. So in Blackwell Street's case, that was big stretch project. Like ultimately that was like a couple of $1 million wetland when Logan subsequently got that built after I left. Right, because I took it through detailed design, but then I left and handed it off to others like Dan Carrick, who did a really good job of getting it in the ground. So ultimately, Blackwell Street, massive stretch project, things that I didn't get quite right. I was allowed to learn from those things that didn't quite go right, but ultimately, someone had my back, so I never felt like I was going to get completely smacked over the head if things went wrong. And it's that balance that I think we can all learn from as, you know, as bosses or even employees who want to stretch ourselves and are looking for how our boss can help us. I think there's something in that. I think there's something we can learn from that. Thank you for tuning in. Episode 100, it's very exciting. We look forward to seeing you at episodes 200, 300, 500, 800. Oh dear, I've just set myself up for something there, haven't I? We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you again to DJ, Dione, Claire, and Andrew, and we'll see you next time.